Hey, hi, hello.
Hey, hi, yes,
hello.
there we go. Now we're going.
Hello.
Greetings.
We're there. We're
Twitch.
here.
Twitch.television.
We're on the Twitch. That's right. We're the back room boys.
Because we're going to talk about the backroom.
That's what it is. Yes,
later.
that's right. Yep, that's right. That's right. All right. So yeah, we're back here once again.
Even though it's not. Oh no, there it is on the board.
It's on the list.
Yeah.
It's on the list. So let's. We don't have a whole lot of time, so let's jump. Let's start the show off.
Bada bing, bada
Let
boom.
me double- Okay.
Levels. Da 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 da.
Okay, yours looks good.
Wow.
Whoa. Okay, I think we're good. All right, you guys are getting to see how the real sausage is made. We usually test that out before I hit record. Oh well. Yeah. Let's do this thing.
No, we're just going full regular show.
Yep, we're just
Oh! That's coming back soon. Whoa.
It is.
Oh wait. Oh shoot.
Hit a button?
Shit. Oh, nope. It's good. We're good.
Yes.
We're good.
Yes. The Lost Tapes starts soon,
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
like May.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. You have an intro?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey everybody, welcome to Nerd Overload, the pop and geek culture show that really wants you to read their Notorious B.I.G. Star Trek crossover script. It's called More Tribbles, Mo Troubles. I'm Cody.
Oh, that was worth the setup. I'm Sam.
And I'm Sir Trex-a-Lot.
Oh, we have a great show for you this week. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, we have our news, but first let's talk about some things we have been checking out.
Check it out!
Acting.
Yes. All right. So what have you guys been up to this week?
Crap. This is the part of the show I should have thought about it in advance.
Yeah, maybe, probably. I rewatched Galaxy Quest. I've talked about this
classic.
show many times
Yeah.
on the show, so I don't have much else to add to it other than
It's one of the greatest movies ever made.
I've said for a long time that there's no such thing as a perfect film. That it's up there. It's pretty close.
If it wasn't for Tim Allen, it was really close.
You know what?
He is good in it.
He is great in it, and I
You
guess
take out his personality outside of acting. He's great in the movie.
yeah, yes. There was one anecdote I'll bring up, and then we'll move on. That I guess there's a scene near the end where he is explaining to the aliens, the Thermians, that they aren't actual space. He's not a real space captain. He's just an actor.
Yeah, it's when Thrax is talking to him, and he's like, "Explain to him like a child."
And it's this really dramatic scene. And they got done filming that bit, and Tim Allen said, I gotta step away. I don't know what's going on. I need to step away for a second." And Alan Rickman turned to some of the crew and said, "My God, I think he's learned acting."
I know he
So,
wasn't a fan in the beginning.
Wasn't impressed because Tim Allen really doesn't act. He just kind of.
There is an anecdote I always love about the movie, and Patrick Stewart has talked about this multiple times.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, where he basically was avoiding it like the plague because he was like, "Oh, they're making fun of Star Trek. I love being in Star Trek. I don't want them to see them lampoon my franchise or whatever."
Right.
But then Jonathan Frakes called him and it was like, "You need to watch this movie."
It's like if Donkey Kong refused to watch Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But no, the end of that is Stewart did go and see it and
laughed the whole time.
He said he was maybe laughing the loudest out of the entire theater because he not only got the jokes, he lived the jokes, which was great.
Well, he was also the cause of some of the jokes.
He was
because he was kind of, you don't think about this with Patrick Stewart, but like he was a cut up on Next Generation. He loved goofing off.
Yes, and going back and watching Galaxy Quest, you could see where they're adjusting their shirts from time to time because of the Patrick Stewart thing.
The Picard maneuver.
The Picard maneuver, yeah. Also, I wish It's never going to show up, but there is an R-rated cut of the film because
right, yeah, because they're swearing in it. They get that if you watch their mouths, they're saying it, but it's dubbed. It's cut out.
At one point, Sigourney Weaver definitely doesn't say "screw this."
Yes,
and there's a whole subsection, like a scene and a half cut out. So through the whole thing, Tony Shalhoub, Monk, he's just acting kind of weird and out of it, like a kind of a hippie or burnout or whatever.
Yeah, he's in a weird.
He's carrying this brown paper bag with him for the first half of the movie. Well, there was a cut scene explaining that's where all his drugs were.
In that brown paper bag. And
he was just constantly stoned up until the point where the teleporter scene, where he actually kind of gets his groove back. And you see at the very, very end when he teleports the rock monster in and smashes up all the
grunt guys.
All the grunts. If you look for a second, the reason why they're smoking cigars and playing cards and like just kind of hanging out, that brown paper bag is in that room with them. So there was a whole thing with somehow the alien grunts
got a hold of
the drugs and were just burning out in like the cargo hold of the ship when he teleports them down in.
Yeah.
But it was completely finished as an R-rated movie, and then producers came back and said, "This is really, really good. You can double the amount of money you make if we made this,
or at least PG-13."
It's a very heavy PG.
Yeah. But he also he's always also, if you ever notice, he's always eating snacks.
He's always eating
like
snacks
every time he's on the screen,
out of the bag and everything.
he's eating snacks.
Yes.
They're like, "We did it, guys.
Yeah,
good,
there was
good job.
Yeah, group hug, guys." Yeah, no, that was the whole subplot, is that and the whole line at the end with Sam Rockwell going, "Are you stoned?" The joke was it took him the entire movie to realize
that he was stoned.
That he was stoned the whole time. That was the joke.
One of my favorite jokes in that movie is when they go down to the planet to get the next beryllium sphere for the ship. And they find all the little aliens.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, oh, they must be minors. He goes, "Oh, yeah, they can't be any older than whatever." He goes, "No, minors, not minors.
They look like they're 3. Yeah. And one little tidbit that I kind of like. So the joke throughout the entire movie is no one knows Guy's name. But one of the things they establish early on is that Tim Allen, for all of his faults, he cared about the people on set. He cared about everything. If you listen to them go through, he calls Guy by his last name at one point, meaning he knew who he was as an actor just from having one bit role, because he never reintroduces himself to them other than saying, "Hey, I'm Guy." Yeah. But he calls him Fleegman at one point because he cared about the crew. He knew, and that just kind of sets up that character that he's pompous and that he has a big head, but he did actually care about the people that he worked with.
Yeah, he remembered that he was a bit player in one episode or whatever.
Yes, exactly. And those are the little things that you pick up when you rewatch a movie for the 100th time. And it feels like it's been the 100th time.
I think this might be the 100th time we've talked about it on this show.
Probably. And you know what? We'll probably talk about it for 100 more times.
Hey, the next time I don't have a check 'em out, it's probably going to be talking about Galaxy Quest again. All right.
Or the Orville. I need to sit down and actually watch.
I need to watch the Orville as well.
I've watched most of it. There might be a season or two that I've not seen because they neglect to advertise when new ones come out.
Yeah, have you noticed that? Like all the really good ones.
Well, my theory behind that is that
they wanted to fail.
Seth MacFarlane sold them a false bill of goods. What the studio wanted was Family Guy and live action Family Guy in space, and what Seth MacFarlane gave was
Star Trek.
This is my Star Trek.
Yeah.
So it's popular enough that it can't get canceled without too much backlash, but it's not filling what the studio originally wanted. So they're just kind of downplaying it until it runs its course.
I mean,
but Orville is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like when somebody wants to hire like Seth MacFarlane, they want Seth MacFarlane for like Family Guy stuff.
Yes.
and not like stuff that Seth MacFarlane actually cares about it anymore.
Well, he refuses to be pigeonholed.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
I watched a video about that Flintstones.
Oh,
that he was supposed to do. It just fell apart because he couldn't figure out how to make it not just be Family Guy cave people.
With Family Guy cave people.
And to be fair, it's the same setup.
Yeah.
So it would be very difficult for him to. Yeah, there's not a lot of innovation in the Flintstones.
No.
I mean, you could do it, but I guess
It would
Seth
be so
MacFarlane
far.
couldn't.
Yeah.
And like, what's the point of having him do it if it's not,
Right. Yeah.
somebody else could figure it out, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, they had that comic book where it was
yeah.
I wouldn't say grim and gritty, but it was a more realistic take on.
And it had something interesting to say about the Flintstones formula, which is what you would have to do to make it work.
You would have to, but then that's not what people want. They just want, Barney,
Wilma!
my pebbles. Yeah.
But the thing
They
that
just
they
want the honeymooners.
is the same thing that existed and ran its course. Like they covered everything they could cover and then ran it into the ground with spin-offs with the Thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thing ring, do your thing.
Yeah.
That and Jetsons is almost the exact same formula, just with flying cars
In space. Yeah.
and they even cross over with each other in that one movie.
That's right. They did. Yeah. Good times.
I did watch Hoppers.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I want to.
Recently.
It looks cute.
It is very cute and funny and has a good story and message.
See,
Mhm.
I read somewhere that the message of like, what was it? Protest. Like they go the wrong way with.
They don't go far enough.
Mm.
At the end, the message you're going for is that like you have to compromise,
Oh.
and unfortunately, like the bad guy is not really that bad. He just has bad ideas.
Is he just a guy?
But he's a mayor.
Yeah, he's the mayor. Yeah, right.
And he's trying to bulldoze this glade that the main girl, her grandma's house was there, and it means a lot to her. And she's trying to get him to stop.
Is the
building
house
it.
still there, or is it
Yeah,
gone?
that's where she lives.
Oh, okay.
But he's trying to bulldoze the glade so they can put in a highway that takes 4 minutes off of people's commutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that sounds really familiar.
Yeah, but it's kind of spoilers, but it doesn't really matter because it's still worth watching.
Yeah.
In the end, they still build the highway just somewhere else. And we just don't build the highway because there was no point to it. Like,
Yeah. That is kind of. It's like it didn't go far enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
It just moved the goalpost. It moved from the drama being about this one location, and you're taking that exact same premise and you're putting it over here.
yeah.
Yeah.
The end, the glade becomes a nature preserve, and the highway goes somewhere else. And it's like you would rather see them just not build the highway at all,
Sure.
because they established that it's kind of pointless.
Yeah. Like if it were a highway that would reroute, like make it easier for like a hospital to get to a hospital or something like that, that would make sense to reroute instead of just not do it.
Yeah,
But just,
make it so both sides have a salient point,
yes.
and then it wouldn't be so bad. But it
Right.
doesn't do
But
that.
instead,
But even then, it's still a great movie, and that's a good message though. Is that you should find compromises and work together with people.
It's a good message. Yeah. Yeah.
Because the mayor guy's not all bad, and they established that.
Mm-hmm.
How, do they beat the Avatar joke into the ground?
No, they only do it once.
Oh, okay. And it happened to be in the trailer.
Yeah, the bit in the trailer is the only part where they mention Avatar.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I like the robots that they jump into. Like whenever they get destroyed, they just like big time explode too. It's very funny.
Nice. Nice.
But like all the animals are cute. The juxtaposition of how we see the animals when we're point of view with the person inside them, and how they look to a regular human, because the animals look more feral and realistic when we see them from outside.
Oh, I see.
Of the perspective of
And
the
then when
main
they're-
character.
And then when they're talking to each other, that's when they have the Pixar face.
Yes,
Oh, interesting. That's cool.
it's very funny. It's a great gag.
That's a good.
Okay.
gag.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the lizard?
The lizard's funny.
Okay.
I had assumed he was going to
Be like a
in it.
Minions character?
Yeah, a lot. He's not really that. He doesn't like wear out his welcome or anything.
Okay,
He's
that's
just
good
there
because
sometimes.
he was memed so hard.
Yeah,
They're-
marketing really pushed the lizard, but he's not. He's just a regular character in the film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the bits where he's like screaming, and then there's, obviously the lizard button.
Yeah. But yeah, he's not annoying or anything. None of the characters are really annoying.
Oh, that's
Oh,
good.
that's good. That's good.
Bobby Moynihan's Beaver King guy is very funny and affable and cute.
I liked
Cool.
him in the trailers.
Yeah.
I tell you what, he's really starting to kind of make a comeback. Well, not so much a comeback because he never really went anywhere, but he's doing that show with Daniel Radcliffe now as well with and Tracy Morgan, which I've heard early
Ooh.
reports that it's really good.
Oh, shoot. I saw an ad for that.
Yeah.
What was that?
The fall and rise of like Dickie Bushman or something like that.
Yeah.
That's not his name, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
He was on the other Tina Fey, Robert, what's his name show, the one with Ted Danson.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Mayor. He was
Mr.
really
he was
funny
in
on
that,
Mr.
yep.
Mayor.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
really upset when they canceled that one because it was a pretty funny show.
He's on maybe one of the funniest episodes of Very Important People from Dropout. He
I
play-
don't think I've seen that
Oh,
one.
very important.
he
people.
plays a guy who was frozen in the back of an ice cream truck in the 80s and was just unthawed. And I'm not going to spoil any of it, but it's really, really
The recent
very, very freaked out about everything that's now.
the recent one with Lisa Gilroy as Oops Little Fart.
Oops, little fart.
It
Yeah.
was so funny.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, Lisa Gilroy and Vic Michaelis are friends, and I think she just wants to make Vic laugh, try to break as much as possible.
Yeah, the last Make Some Noise that Lisa Gilroy was on too
It was-
completely devolved into absolute madness.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like that's a lot of their videos,
Yeah.
though.
Oh, but it's especially apparent in
Yeah.
those because she like has like she like makes it her purpose to like make fun of Sam Reich
Yeah,
as
like,
much as possible.
Particularly antagonize him.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I love Sam Reich, though.
He's a funny dude.
Yeah.
He is I feel like I like everybody who's kind of attached to Dropout, honestly, right now.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. I don't really have anyone that's like. There are a couple of shows that I don't watch, just because they're not my
Cup of tea.
cup of tea. I need to try that Parlor Room. It's like they did it on Geek and Sundry for a while. It's like whatever that show that Will Wheaton hosted about the board game.
Oh,
Tabletop.
whatever. Tabletop. It's basically that, but the first season was really, really unfocused and kind of a slog to watch. But it came back for a second season, and I do need to check that out because I like the people involved.
Man,
with
I used to watch
I just
Tabletop
don't-
all the time.
Yeah.
I like actually,
Yes.
but I wish they would have people on it that knew
The answers.
the answers.
Like what they're
Mhm.
talking about.
Yeah, because they just have the regular dropout like comedian,
And a lot of them don't,
and
or a
yeah.
lot of times it's one person that knows all of it, and the
Yeah.
other two that don't. I did hear that I think they're doing a Tournament of Champions again this year. So by the end of the season, there should be, people
have
who
it-
actually they'll have Brennan back on.
Yeah. Did you
Oh,
see the YouTube?
I did
Jeopardy?
watch
Yeah,
that. I
watched
did watch
too.
that. That was
What?
pretty good.
There was a
Jeopardy?
YouTube episode of Jeopardy.
Oh.
With
It was like truncated. It was like one round.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it was Brennan Lee Mulligan, Rebecca Black, and
Monet.
Monet.
Uh,
I forget the rest of their name.
Monet St. James, I think, is their name, or something like that.
We know who they are.
The drag
Yeah.
actor who had a show on Dropout for a season and is now on YouTube.
Okay.
So yeah,
But I knew from the start that Brennan was
gonna
going to run wild with everyone,
Mhm.
and he really locked in at the end.
he did. Well, I think he was having trouble buzzing in at the beginning because there were a couple where you could actually see him like
Hitting the button
doing
and it
one of
wasn't
these.
working.
Do
Yeah.
you think there was a time where he wondered if he was on a Game Changer episode?
Yeah.
He was
He was thinking he might have been tricked.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Which is totally in keeping with Game Changer.
I love Game Changers. That's like probably that in that Joffrey and The one where they're talking in the parlor.
Smarty Pants.
Smarty
Smarty
Pants.
Pants. That
Those
Smarty
are-
Pants is really good.
Those are probably like my favorite
Yeah.
ones from that ecosphere of stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that Dropout is actually starting to pick up either previously done shows or things that are produced outside of their studio. Like they're re-releasing all of the Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared TV, like the 20-minute episodes.
Oh, okay.
They should pick up our show.
They should pick up our show. The rumor is that they
they're
are
picking
going
up
to
our
be
show?
I wish. No. Sam Reich, if you're out there, we have the same name and almost the same beard. Just we'll talk. You can have us very cheap. No, they might pick up and be the new hosting place for the My Brother and Me show.
Oh,
Somebody should.
Might pull them off of CISO or Crunchyroll or wherever they're at now, because it's a perfect spot for them.
I wonder if they would ever do it.
I don't know.
I mean, they
you,
do-
You
they-
mean on My Brother?
Yeah, my brother and me TV show. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
TV show.
I mean, they stream a lot now.
Yeah, and they basically do with that the McElroy Family Clubhouse.
Yeah, but I don't know if they'd ever actually do a real, like an actual produced show again.
Oh, by the way, Cliff's gonna be there too.
Clint, you mean?
Clint. Yeah, Clint. I don't know.
Oh,
why
yeah?
Cliff.
Papa McElroy.
Yeah, Papa McElroy at Origins.
Oh, nice. Well, they're semi-local.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Where are they from?
Well, Travis lives in Cincinnati.
Okay.
And
Justin is Huntington, West Virginia,
Mhm.
and Griffin's
Okay.
in DC.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, the
And
The
Clint lives in.
is-
Is he in Ironton?
I don't know if he's in Ironton. I thought he was in Huntington, West Virginia as well, because I think for some reason I thought Justin's family moved over that way closer, or
I don't know.
Travis moved back that way to be closer or something. But yeah, they're all from southern Ohio,
West
northern West Virginia
Virginia-ish
area.
area.
Yeah.
I found out when I met Mason Andy from the Legends of Aventris people. They are from the DC-ish area.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because me and my sister were talking to them, and we're like, "So where are you guys actually? Like, is this like a far trip for you?" He goes, "Oh, not really. We're in the DC, Richmond, Virginia area." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Cool,
Hey, right on. We're neighbors, kind of, sort of.
a couple states away, but yeah,
Yeah. All right, Josh, do you have a check-em?
not really.
Not really. Okay. You know what?
We rambled for
We
quite
did
a bit.
a ramble. That's okay. Let's switch gears and move on over to the news.
I want to talk about the brain rot Fortnite skins that just.
No,
dropped.
I don't, because that makes me angry.
What are they?
Okay, so there's this thing called Feel the Brain Rot,
Okay.
which is this stupid game, user-made game on Fortnite that
Mhm.
uses AI-generated creatures.
From
Oh.
the Italian brain rot.
Yeah, Italian
Stuff.
brain rot stuff. And it's called like Tung Tung Sakor Tung Tung or something like that.
Okay,
Stupid.
yeah.
And then there's like a girl with like a cappuccina or something like that.
Cappuccino ballerina.
Yeah, cappuccina ballerina. Well, they are AI-generated characters that got really popular on
Boo.
the internet, and Fortnite made skins of them. I know. I'm very disappointed.
That sucks.
But on the same hand, I really want to buy that Perry the Platypus.
There's a Perry the Platypus.
He's
Oh, it follows you
super
around?
jacked.
Oh.
He's super jacked.
I thought it was a pet
No, he's
Huh.
not a sidekick.
or a sidekick. That would be cool.
I'm kind of getting tired of sidekicks. They all have the same animation.
Really?
Oh yeah, if you line them up, they all have the same exact animation.
That sucks.
Well, that's so they can crank them out quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a Meat Boy one, and it's like,
yeah.
well, if Meat Boy was still meant anything to me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And he has the exact same animations as all the little guys like that aren't
He's
animals.
red SpongeBob.
He is
Yeah.
Red SpongeBob.
Basically. All right, so let's talk about some stuff. What do we want to start with? You know what? One that we missed last week. Let's talk about that that Spider-Man trailer.
Yes.
It
So
looked like some Spider-Man.
yeah, it did. So it's Spider-Man. What is it? Brand new
Day.
Brand new day.
Which is kind of funny because the Brand New Day comic was the one where Peter made a deal with Mephisto to make everybody forget that Peter Parker and Spider-Man are the same
no,
person.
brand new day was when he started. People started remembering him again.
Well, yeah, because of the Mephisto thing.
Right, but yeah.
I could have sworn the
so-
Brand New Day comic was the one where he actually made the deal with Mephisto. That took away his marriage to MJ
that was one
and
last
everything.
day. That
One
was
last day.
One last day.
Right, okay.
Yeah. He did that in order to save Aunt May's life.
Yeah, because bad guys were attacking Aunt May because they
Right.
knew that.
Wait, why didn't he do that in the movie? Because she died.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, they couldn't afford to. No, it's Marvel. They could afford to keep Marissa Tomei
Yeah.
around.
I think it's because we never got a Uncle Ben on screen.
and I'm fine with that.
I was fine with it too because they mentioned it briefly in Civil War.
And technically we did. If you watch that trash fire movie, Madam Web, Adam Scott plays Ben Parker in that film.
Yeah, but it's not. It does. We don't know if it's our
could-
Ben Parker.
I could
may
believe.
as
I could
well be,
believe that Adam
because-
Scott is
because-
Tom Holland's dad. I can
Well,
accept that.
Uncle.
Or uncle. Never
Yeah.
mind.
But the
Yeah,
thing
never
is,
mind.
though, the Sony Spider adjacent films take place in a different universe than the MCU.
Yeah, that is established
That is established. That's true.
with Venom.
Yeah.
Eddie.
Anyway, yeah. So that Spider-Man trailer looks really good. It's interesting that it's like everything has been. They're out of New York. I think he's in Los Angeles or somewhere on the West Coast.
No, it's New York.
Is it New York?
He's
too?
still in New York.
They show him watching all his friends and stuff as they live their lives without him.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, you're right.
He even went to
You're
a
right.
party where MJ and Ned were.
Yeah. But they're gonna remember who he is by the end of the film.
Oh, absolutely.
Whatever-
Either that,
whatever
well, because
happens.
there's another love interest for Zendaya.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are assuming that this is Paul, MJ's boyfriend from the comics.
Who they just killed off.
Yeah.
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 The worst character on the planet, Paul.
Yeah.
Served no purpose whatsoever. No, my thing is I don't think they've shown I don't think this trailer showed anything that actually happens that's pertinent to the film, like the action. I think so they show a lot of
because
him-
Tom Holland will spoil it.
because Tom
eventually
Holland, yeah,
anyway.
he doesn't know what he's filming from day to day. Yes.
They bring him on set in a blindfold.
No, but they show Spider-Man going after a bad guy and the Punisher's there, and they show him fighting against the Scorpion. I have a feeling those are minor, very like within the first 10 minutes of the film, and by the end of that, we now have the entire movie that we are unspoiled for.
Yeah.
Well, there are some things that I've noticed with this trailer because I've watched this trailer a few times. 'Cause
Yeah.
I love Spider-Man, and I try to like pick every little detail I can out for when it comes to our friendly neighborhood webhood.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're doing the same thing they did for No Way Home,
Mm-hmm.
because there are some scenes in those trailers where the villain that Spider-Man is fighting is not looking at him.
Right.
Like there's a whole scene where Scorpion is like gearing up like a punch,
Mm-hmm.
but he is not punching in the direction of Spider-Man.
He's gonna throw that spear and then be like, "Get over here."
Very good. Very good. The next movie will have Sub-Zero in it.
No, he was killed in the first movie.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Right. No, noob Cybot then. Yeah. But no, you're absolutely right. Something is up with that
Yes.
with the trailer. Something's
either
they're
it's
hiding something.
either it's going to be another Spider Person or it's going to be Daredevil.
Madam Web.
Oh God.
It better not be.
That would be great. No.
It's
That
Morbin
would be
time.
that would be amazing. If it's Morbin time again, I'm in. No, my theory is because they're talking a lot about him evolving and
Yes,
like
he's
his
mutating.
powers are mutating
Yeah,
or
because
something
they
like
show
that.
him he doesn't have. He has.
He could do the
natural
bioweb.
He has the
bioweb.
biowebs and stuff. I have a feeling by the climax of the movie, he is going to be full-on man spider.
He's going to have grown into an adult Spider-Man and gone through the change.
Yes, that's right. His voice is going to drop just a little bit. You know, he's going to have hair in places he's not accustomed to, like all over. But no, in the comics and
Oh, I'm sorry, that's such a bad thing.
in the comics and in Spider-Man the animated series, there was a string of episodes where he was mutating. He got extra arms and
crazy spider face.
crazy. Yeah, he ended up with a crazy spider face and was like a giant spider monster. And my theory is that that is going to happen in this movie. At some point, he is going to become a giant spider monster, and that might be what
we're going body horror with this.
Well, here's the
horror,
thing.
yeah.
In a more recent Spider-Man comic, and by recent I mean in the last handful of years,
Yeah.
when Spider-Man, actually this was a lot longer now that I think about it.
Everything is.
I know.
Unfortunately,
This was about post comic book Civil War, because in the post Civil War comics, there's
like 15 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's a part where Iron Man comes for Peter, and Peter basically just lets loose with all his webs, and basically
shoots all the web.
Shoots all the web and ties Iron Man up in this alleyway with like so much webbing he can't move.
Right.
Like he's just literally just a cocoon. But he makes a comment, goes, "I haven't tried this since my webs went."
And that's how we got Iron Butterfly.
So this is how my web went before my webs went internal. There's a comic where I can't remember the name of the villain, but there's this female villain who can manipulate insects or spiders or something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But
I think she was just called the Spider Queen.
yeah,
or
something like that. Yeah, she injects
lame.
Peter with like a thing that supercharges his mutation.
Jennifer Bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, supercharges his mutation, and he becomes a giant spider, like literal giant spider.
And then
The giant spider dies, and then Peter breaks out of the body of the spider
with enhanced
with
that's where he
enhanced powers.
gets the stingers there he had for a while. He had like one Wolverine claw that shot out.
Oh, it was on his foot.
No, it was here. I remember that because anything having to do with your wrist grosses me the hell out. Like if something's shooting out of your wrist, I hate that.
I could have sworn it was like one of like the foot or toe barbs that he got when he was Superior Spider-Man.
Maybe it was, but I know he had something here as well. And they were like poisonous stingers that he got.
The point is, there's a history of Spider-Man turning into a big freak, and that's probably what's going to happen.
And that's probably exactly. That's exactly.
There's also another thing I don't know what's going on, because there's a part where Peter rips the door off of some tank or a subway car. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone's got guns trained on this thing, this door or whatever. And
it's an old lady.
It's an old lady. But then you see something. You don't actually see a thing, but you see a motion of it jumping from person to person.
My, again, totally unsubstantiated theory is that this is a flashier way of doing the chameleon.
I mean,
instead of having him just be a guy who puts on different masks, he is someone who can jump from body to body and impersonate other people.
That is a possibility.
That's my guess.
Or it's a symbiote that has been digitally erased from the trailer.
That could be it as well.
And that could be the introduction of our MCU Venom. Since Venom is a piece of him, does exist within the 616.
Technically, yeah. That could be. Well, I'm excited to find out.
I am too, because I love Spider-Man, and Tom Holland is my favorite live-action Spider-Man.
I haven't been excited for a Marvel movie in a while.
Oh, yeah.
And
probably not since Wakanda Forever, honestly.
Yeah.
What was the last one? Was Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and I still haven't seen it.
It was fine.
Yeah.
Ultimately inoffensive.
It was just okay.
Yeah.
Nope. Deadpool Wolverine was the last one I watched.
Okay,
and that's only technically MCU.
Yeah.
All right, so let's rifle through a couple of these.
Let's power through this stuff.
Let's see. I could take 2 seconds and talk about the Netflix Hulk Hogan documentary that they're doing.
Sure.
Why?
They're doing it because they somehow got a hold of the last interview he did right before he died. And Hogan has for years, whether you believe him or not, and I mean, there's no reason to, but he has always said, and I quote, "I know where the bodies are buried, brother." As in, he knows a lot of the dirty secrets behind. They're purporting, though they're presenting it like there's going to be some revelations made through this documentary, this interview. I don't think there is anything, because Hulk Hogan is a showboat and was a showboat and a horrible human being.
It turns out he's really racist,
incredibly so, and he wasn't hiding it that much.
No. Also, he didn't hide that he, kissed the ring of McMahon all the time. Too.
Yeah. I don't think this is going to tell us anything we don't already know. I think Netflix is bumping this up because Peacock just put out a documentary on Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. And I think Netflix is trying to one-up them.
And Netflix has the rights to air
WWE.
Wrestle.
WWE
Yeah.
Wrestling,
knew.
which Danhausen has been going nuts on WWE. He was picked up by WWE.
Okay.
He's no longer in AEW or
All right.
or the Indies. And
So he made it to the big show.
he made it to the big show.
No
and
pun intended.
He hasn't
Not that
he
big
hasn't,
show,
No,
yeah.
not that big show.
No, he sucks.
As an aside, have you ever watched the Big Show show? His sitcom?
Oh, I
No.
remember
starring
that.
the Big Show.
I do remember
It was
that.
actually really good.
I do remember
He
that.
was actually the Big Show is actually, as it turns out, a competent actor and a very charismatic dude. It was actually kind of great, and he played a fictionalized version of himself who had retired from wrestling and is now a stay-at-home dad. That was the gimmick of the sitcom. But no, Danhausen has been doing great. He hasn't wrestled yet, but the big joke is that he came into the company and they immediately gave him 3 shirts worth of merch, and he's just doing backstage bits like cursing everyone and trying to team up with The Miz, because The Miz is like, he's basically Johnny Cage of the WWE right now. He's basically, I am the prettiest and the best. And
He has the muscles
Danhausen
and the power.
and the muscles and the power. And Danhausen is like, it just comes up to him and says, "So how many shirts do you have in the merch store?" He goes, "When I started, I didn't have any shirts, and you get one as soon as you join." He goes, "Well, actually, I have 3." and they're blaming one of the Bella twins twisted her ankle in the ring, and they're blaming Danhausen for cursing her into the injury. They're doing a whole bit where anyone who gets hurt, it's Danhausen cursing them, which I think is great.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
We probably should talk about our 2 A24 movies.
We should talk
since
about
the
those.
title includes them.
Yes. So the first one is the Backroom.
Yeah, Backrooms, based on the copy pasta, I
guess. Yeah, copy pasta is an
Internet horror story.
that kind of is like a word of mouth kind of
People
thing.
keep adding to it.
Yeah.
The mythology, it's like Slender Man back from the early 2000s. It keeps getting built up on.
It started with a creepy yellowed picture of a back room that looked weird.
Mm-hmm.
in some like office building or store or
And then
something.
someone wrote a story with it, and then someone added to the story and added to it until it became its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's 100% sure what really started it.
Mm-hmm.
Though the trailer does say, based on the works of whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So somebody's getting credit.
I initially, the only reason I watched the trailer is like, oh my god, this can't be any good. Like, I wonder how bad the Backrooms movie will be, because usually movies based on internet horror stuff
or
not
just
great.
internet culture.
are
Yeah,
bad.
They're
Like
not great.
like Five Nights at Freddy's movie.
Well, yeah.
But this actually looks really good. Like, the trailer is competently creepy.
Yes. Well,
Also,
that's A24 for you, though.
Yeah.
Also, I am a sucker for found footage. I really am.
I do like a good
When it's
found
done
footage,
right.
too.
When it's done
yeah,
right.
yeah. I blame the Blair Witch Project for starting me down that path. I feel like that's pretty much probably very similar for a lot of people.
Yeah,
honestly.
sure. But yeah, it looks good.
It looks like somebody took the vibes of Skinamarink
Mhm.
and reconfigured it into something that is more palatable to the average
yes.
Moviegoer.
person. Yeah, to the
Yes.
non-freak.
The non-initiated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Skinamarink is a very acquired
it
taste.
was. Yeah. But no, beyond that, we also have our first bit of news about the Elden Ring movie.
which
based
you
on
knew was going to
the
happen.
Elden Ring game.
I didn't expect A24 to pick it up, though. They usually, doing a licensed video game adaptation is really not.
But there's not much of a plot to Elden Ring,
true.
so they can do whatever they want with it.
A lot of the
And- FromSoft
games are like very loose.
Very loose.
in their
structure.
lore.
The
yeah.
lore is only in like the flavor text of weapons, basically.
Yeah.
And
But
who reads that?
right, and it's very horror centric, so it kind of fits. And they save so much money on all their other movies by doing things with minimal special effects and sets.
Like the Backrooms movie, they could have conceivably filmed it all in one room that
in
they
one
reconfigure.
area. Yeah, exactly. So all the money that they save and make everywhere else, they can put into the Elden Ring movie. Or not. And make it work.
I'm still going to say this. The Lighthouse is still one of my favorite horror movies of all time.
Oh, it's great.
Maybe they made all that has-been hotel money, and now they have a taste for pop culture.
Yeah. Well, you know what? This is...
They're almost in bed with Amazon at this point.
Well, let me tell you what this is, in my opinion. So you know how actors, a lot of times, they'll do a couple of commercial films to make their money and then do some art house stuff? This is the reverse of that. This is A24
the art house studio.
The art house studio doing one commercial film to make all of the money so that they can continue to fund the stuff that they actually want to make.
The substance too.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, that's such a good movie. I love that movie.
Oh, The Substance is really good.
So I know I mentioned Black Panther earlier when we were talking about Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
So Ryan Coogler, the director of the Black Panther films,
yes,
is apparently going to do an Animorphs project.
He's producing.
He's executive producing.
Yeah, he's producing an Animorphs project.
Which means he'll have his hands in the production of it at some point. And
yeah, which means it'll be better than that really cheesy TV show that we had as kids.
I'm surprised they never made a movie. Seemed like it would.
Yeah.
I feel like it was more ahead of its time.
It's way weirder than Goosebumps.
Oh yeah, it's weird. It's weirder than Goosebumps. It's weirder than Harry Potter.
Well, because it's anyone who just looks at it and go, "Oh, it's kids that can turn into animals." That's fine. But no,
that's not what it really is.
That's not what it really is.
It's not.
It's them talking about child soldiers in war. In wartime is what it is.
It's a very deep.
Yeah.
It's a very deep franchise.
For what it is, yes. They deal with a lot of like the PTSD and, you know, the ramifications of being young children who have been conscripted against their will into
an alien war.
And it's like real war, not like, you know, fake movie space war.
Sailor Moon.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It's not like this conflict will be resolved by the end of the book.
Oh, can you imagine if they do the animal transitions not like the front of the books, but like actual like body horror snapping of limbs?
The front of the books are kind of body horror.
The middle transformation is a little weird. That I agree with that.
Like some American Werewolf in London kind of like level.
That's what I'm thinking. Yes, The Fly. Yeah. Also, the existential horror of one of them gets permanently turned into a hawk. Tobias. He can't become a human again until the later books when he can, because his hawk form anamorphs into a human.
Not only that,
but only for 2 hours at a time.
Not only that, but they in the books, if you're in animal form too long, the animal brain starts to take over, and you forget that you're human.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember them talking about that when they all became ants.
Yes, and then yeah,
and then the hive mentality of it started to take over.
Yep. But yeah,
I've been really, really thinking about going back and rereading the books because it has been a really long time.
With an adult brain and modern, you know, kind of
a modern lens to look
at it. Yeah, I bet it's really interesting.
Yeah, I never read them when I was a kid. I was like, I'm good with Goosebumps.
I think. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
No. Well, I think I read one or two, but there was a podcast that what's her name? She used to do for Polygon.
Jenna?
Jenna. Yeah. Jenna Stobler did, where she read every single one and gave highlights and stuff, a review of it, and it was a really good podcast.
Jenna's great.
She is.
I'd consume anything that she made.
She does. Yeah, she does good work.
I watch her stream sometimes. They're usually pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Good taste in video games too.
Let's fly through a couple of these.
There's a RoboCop reboot,
I guess.
Why?
Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah, which means they're gonna miss the mark. They're gonna miss the what made RoboCop good.
Yeah.
Well, if they're smart, they'll look at what they did wrong in the last remake and try to correct some of that.
It's not necessarily difficult to do a good RoboCop.
It's not.
The game did it right.
Yeah.
The last, what was that called? Rogue City?
Rogue City, yeah.
That was an excellent game that got the vibe of RoboCop perfectly.
Yeah.
But also, it was building straight off the old movies.
Yeah.
And if they do that here, could work. It could work.
RoboCop in retirement.
There's so much you could say about the police in the present day through the lens of RoboCop that would be really good.
It would be very compelling.
Yeah, but no studio is going to be brave enough to do that.
Especially not Amazon.
No, they toe the line too much. In other bad news,
yeah, let's continue down that bad road.
So Paramount apparently got a flush of cash from a Middle Eastern finance company to purchase Warner Brothers.
About $24 billion, or roughly 20% of what they're getting from Warner Brothers, will be owned by the Middle East. They did not say where.
But there's only pretty much one good guess.
It's like the Saudi royal family
it's
or something.
It is,
or at least somebody connected.
Yeah.
It is hinted at Saudi blood money, but we can't say for sure because we will never actually know. But if there's someone who is buying up a bunch of media in the Middle East, it's usually Saudi blood money. They did it with SNK. They tried it with Capcom.
They did it with EA.
Wrestling. Deep in wrestling.
That's why the WWE wrestles in Saudi Emirates every couple of years. So yes, that means that some of the decision making allegedly for the Warner Brothers properties would have to go through that filter as well.
That finance firm.
That's another step in. Yeah, it's not great.
It's got to go through the Saudi royal family, and it's got to go through Barry Weiss.
Yeah, so that's
and
two.
Jared Kushner probably.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's three giant
red flags.
Allegedly.
Alleged red flags.
Allegedly.
I don't want to get backflagged in the middle of the night.
Let's see.
Speaking of Amazon,
yes.
They're making a Mass Effect show. This is a known, but apparently the TV head at Amazon sent the scripts back to be rewritten and less gamer focused or whatever. I forget exactly how they worded it, but it was a bizarre thing to say because there's not anything particularly gamery about Mass Effect.
Right.
It's a
sci-fi story.
It's a sci-fi space opera RPG. Like, it's just telling a sci-fi story.
Unless they sent the script back and saying all these references to the games, the names of these things, take them out. We don't care about the people. We don't care about the property. We just want the name.
Could be.
I'm Jeff Bezos, and this is my favorite streaming platform on the Citadel.
I would hope they would understand that part of what makes Fallout so good is
the video games.
Yeah, is that it is.
They reference the games.
The tone. They get the tone of the game exactly.
Yeah, but no, it sounds like they're going to do the opposite of that with.
I don't understand how Amazon can keep doing this. Yeah, they made Halo.
How do they keep getting away with it?
They made Halo. Halo was bad.
No, Paramount made.
Or no, Paramount. Yeah, I keep forgetting Paramount made Halo. For some reason, I don't know why I keep thinking Amazon made Halo. It's because I kept seeing it pop up on Amazon. I don't know. But
I've been playing a lot of Dispatch.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me that it is just kind of like we have Invincible at home.
Yeah.
The game.
It kind of is. Yeah.
Little less Black Ops, Pentagon level stuff, but yeah.
And it's not as violent.
Not as violent, but
no.
There's definitely more nudity in Dispatch.
Oh, yeah. That's very true.
But it's a very similar vibe.
It is. Yeah.
Also, it has a very similar art style as well.
Yeah.
Hey, before we wrap things up for the week, we actually have an email or a voicemail. Believe it or not, and you can
to quote God damn it. To quote Tim Allen,
exactly. So we're going to jump into the mailbag section.
Mailbag day! Mailbag day! Hey everybody, it's mailbag day!
What will the video be?
I don't know yet. I didn't have time to throw anything together for this one. It'll be interesting by the time we get our next one. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and play. Let's go ahead and play that voicemail.
Yeah, hi guys. Hey, listen, long-time caller, first-time listener. Hey, listen, my friend Ian and I had this conversation after our weekly D&D get-together. If you were to recast updated versions of popular shows from, like the past, who would you pick? Here's one to get you started. How about Steve Buscemi as Columbo? Discuss amongst yourselves, and hey, I was wondering, could you hook me up with some of that long-play probiotic? I'm calling for a friend. Pizza out.
I drank it all.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're all out for now. But thanks for the call, first time, long time. So recasting old properties with newer actors, if they were to reboot a show or movie or what have you.
I don't believe that first time, long time has a D&D get together.
You never know.
I don't believe that for a second.
But no, he mentioned Steve Buscemi as Columbo, and that's actually a really good choice.
It is, but I feel like the sun has set a little bit on Steve Buscemi.
He was just in something recently.
No, he's in stuff.
Yeah.
He's hit that point of his career where he doesn't have to do things.
He was in
do what he wants.
He was in Hubie Halloween.
I keep hearing mixed reviews of whether that's good or not. I've never actually sat down and watched it.
Because it is technically terrible, but also kind of a good time.
Yeah.
It's a guilty pleasure, I guess.
Sure. Yeah,
Oh,
I can see that. I can
Okay.
certainly see that. Plus, he was in that Daniel Radcliffe show about Miracle Workers. He was God in Miracle Workers.
Yep.
And
He is in Wednesday. He's the headmaster.
Yes, that's right. So he does things. He's still around.
Yeah, I know. And I love Steve Buscemi.
Mhm.
And I've seen Steve Buscemi in a lot of things.
Yeah. So some other properties and people that could replace or do
do new roles.
Do new roles in.
The Matlock show is really good.
That one is really good. Yeah.
I've seen 3 or 4 episodes of that.
Yeah.
And
Wait, there's a new Matlock?
yeah, it's Kathy Bates, right?
Kathy Bates.
Yeah.
Shelock.
Oh gosh. I would Kolchak the Night Stalker. But who would play the Darren McGavin part?
David Duchovny.
There we go.
Because it's pre-X-Files, basically.
Yeah. You know what? Have him, because Duchovny's a funny guy. He can bumble his way through supernatural things while trying to write articles. Yeah, I like that. I mean, you can't really say X-Files because we're about to get
we're about to get a new
X-Files. That's part of the thing
Yeah,
with this question is
so many things are getting rebooted.
Yeah, we're getting so much new.
What if they did a new Dark Shadows?
Okay.
You mean like not like that bad movie?
Not
like an actual soap opera?
I couldn't even sit through that movie, and I liked Tim Burton.
It was rough. I saw it in the theater, so I had to sit through it. I'm not leaving
it made
a
me
theater.
angry. I almost left.
Yeah. But who would you cast as Barnabas in that?
Immediately thought Brad Pitt for some reason, but I guess that's like Interview.
That would be more Interview with the vampire.
I don't see. I'm trying to think of somebody who actually kind of looked like the character.
You know what? Sarsgaard. What's his name?
Nosferatu.
Yeah. Alexander Skarsgård?
No, that's Bill. Bill Skarsgård.
Okay, but I mean
Alexander Skarsgård was in True Blood.
Yes, that's the one I mean.
Oh, okay.
He's gaunt and kind of spooky.
Would work,
and I think he could pull it off.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I like his brother Gustav as well. He was in History Channel's Viking.
Oh, okay.
There's a Gustav Skarsgård?
Yeah.
There's a million of them.
How many Skarsgårds are there?
There are many. They are legion. They're like it's like the Estevezes of Scandinavia.
Antonio Skarsgård, Jose Skarsgård,
Emilio Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen, whose last name is Skarsgård.
Satoshi Skarsgård.
Yes. Okay, you know what? This one, John Hamm as Batman 66, as
Yes.
the Adam
Yes.
West Batman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Set it in the 60s, have it be just as campy and goofy. John Hamm as the Adam West version.
Yes.
That was, yeah.
I
And here's
think
the thing.
that would be good.
John Hamm, like, despite his very conventional attractiveness and his general kind of just safe acting,
He's the mayor in Hoppers as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
he is legitimately a funny dude.
Yeah.
I tell you what, for as much good as the show that he did, the
Mad Men.
Mad Men, thank you. As much as Mad Men did to help promote him as an actor, I think it hurt his image that much as well.
Yeah.
Because he gets typecast into serious roles when he's a goofy dude.
Yeah.
He's really funny.
He's like, he's almost like like a modern day kind of like
What were they in?
lots of old stuff. Cary Grant.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a Cary Grant. Like he's conventionally handsome. He's done a lot of serious stuff that got him really popular, but he can be really funny.
He can be
but
really
he doesn't get opportunities to be funny
Right.
often.
Yes.
And Cary Grant kind of was that way too, because Cary Grant did a couple comedies back in the day too.
Mm-hmm.
But he was mostly like, straight man in a romance kind of movie.
And maybe they're even thinking like,
You're thinking of
yeah.
one of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not 170 years old.
Thanks.
Oh gosh, what are some other old shows that can be brought back? I mean, they've tried
Dragnet.
I was just going to say they've tried Dragnet a couple of times. Who would you put in modern Dragnet? Because those the original Dragnet, I mean, they were serious, but they had a tinge of comedy to them as well. They were
Just the facts, man.
the goofy asides that Friday and his partner.
I don't know Drag.
Dragnet's great.
Dragnet is kind of what Police Squad was kind of making fun of.
It was, yes. But no, like a semi-serious actor.
We don't
that
have
can...
to answer the question for Police Squad because they've already.
No, they've
they
already
did that.
done it.
They've done it, and they
it's
did it
great.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it saved comedy film forever.
You know,
It
there's
was
some truth to that.
It was a breath of fresh whoopee air.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. I can't think of a good
No.
Dragnet.
Okay, what is an old show that you would bring back? Like an old show you would legitimately try to bring back,
like an old sitcom or something?
or something.
Why did I think Doug from Nickelodeon? Even though I don't really
Yeah.
care about Doug
I
as
mean,
an adult, I liked
Disney-
it as a kid. But
Disney brought Doug back, and it was terrible.
yeah, and they did it wrong. They
did it.
Pet Cemetery Doug.
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
they did Pet Cemetery.
Okay.
Doug,
All
that one.
right. Here we go. Gilligan's Island.
Okay,
would you
now
cast?
we're talking.
Who would you cast as the Gilligan's Island
Wait, didn't
group?
we have that? Wasn't that was Lost?
Ah, jokes. No, seriously, like a
legitimate Gilligan's Island?
Gilligan's Island.
I don't know if anybody.
Bobby Moynihan
Bob-
as
the
Gilligan.
skipper.
Well, I mean, he looks like the skipper, but he acts more
You know
like
what? Yes, I like that.
Gilligan.
I like that.
Oh, flip it.
yeah, make
flip-
Gilligan the bigger guy.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, who would be Skipper then? John Mulaney.
No, I don't like John Mulaney.
You don't like John Mulaney?
Just in general, in practice.
He's too like sarcastic for Gilligan's Island. I think you have to go.
yeah.
You have to be full into. You have to be into the premise for it to work.
You know what?
You can't be above the concept.
Terry Crews as the skipper.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like that.
You know, when we were talking, when we were talking about like Dragnet and stuff, I almost said Adam Sandberg.
Andy Samberg.
Andy Samberg, that's
Andy
Brooklyn.
Samberg.
Yeah.
That's Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah,
that was the thing.
and I was like, that's just Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah. But no, Terry Crews as the skipper, Bobby Moynihan as Gilligan. All right. The millionaire and his wife. It would be funny to get an actual married couple. You know what? Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell.
Yes, I was just getting ready to say Santa and Mrs.
An
Claus.
actual couple.
I was gonna say, Parks and Rec, Ron.
Oh yes, Ron. Yeah,
Nick
Nick Offerman,
Offerman.
and
Megan Mullally.
Mullally.
Yeah, that's a better choice, I think. Yeah. Okay. All right. So who do we have left? We have Ginger, Marianne, and the Professor. The Professor.
What if we made
Professor's Jerry from Rick and Morty. What was that guy's name?
Perel.
Chris Parnell.
Chris Parnell.
Chris Parnell is the professor.
Yeah, I can.
I feel like you're just casting him from his voice.
I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Because
yeah.
he's Cyril and Archer, and he's basically the kind of the same
True.
shit.
Say it again, but say stuff.
Yeah, but he's like Cyril. It's like an Archer, but it's just the same stuff. His voice is the same stuff.
Yeah.
What if instead of making the dumb actress a woman, what if they cast like a himbo?
A complete himbo?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, they could pick any like up and coming. You know what? The guy who played Archie in Riverdale.
KJ Apa.
KJ Apa as dumb
Movie star.
movie star model, whatever. And then yeah.
And Cole Sprouse is the professor.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Frankenstein?
And then
The creature?
Then Veronica as Marianne.
Okay, I could actually see that.
Hemsworth. I couldn't think
Hemsworth.
I couldn't think of the name, but yeah, Chris.
Well,
Hemsworth.
here's the thing. I was gonna
Yes.
say Hemsworth because he's already done Jump Himbo before. Because he actually did it twice.
Twice.
His himbo in Ghostbusters
Is
was
Yeah,
Fantastic.
because
Yes.
he's Himbo in Ghostbusters, and he's Himbo in Cabin in the Woods after the switch gets flipped,
Yes.
and then they start acting more like their archetypes and not their actual personality.
Right. Yeah.
Which I love that movie. I hate that it's a Joss Whedon movie, but I love that movie.
Never seen it.
It's pretty solid.
I think you'd really like it. It really takes like horror genre and kind of turns it a little bit.
I watched it once, and once you know what the twist is, it kind of like,
Ruins
well,
it.
You don't have to see it again.
But again,
But
no, he hasn't seen that.
that's true. That's a good point. Any news anchor as the dumb one? Yes. Yes, agreed. Oh, what if Gilligan's a lady?
A Lady Gilligan would be fun.
A lady Gilligan?
Yeah, but then all the
Get-
chuds on the internet would be
Uh,
like, "That's not my Gilligan."
Sarah Sherman. Kind of a weird Gilligan.
Kind of a weird Gilligan. I was gonna say, what's her name? She was the voice of Mabel on
Kristen Shaw.
Kristen Shaw as
She's
as
also Louise.
Gurligan.
She was also
Gurligan's Island.
Yeah, Gurligan's Island. There we go.
She's also
The all-female reboot.
Yes.
Gurligan's Island.
Gurligan's Island. I love it. I love it. TM. Do not steal.
Keep
This is
that.
our idea.
Keep that name.
Okay.
But one person has to be an ape.
The millionaire.
Gorilligan's Island.
Gurligan's Island. Oh, even better. Even better. Yep.
No, everybody's apes.
Yes.
Everybody's
And
apes.
it's like,
Yes.
it's like Lancelot Link. Gurligan's Island.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, hey, thank you again for the call, and you can give us a call at 412-345-1413 if you have any suggestions or any other ideas for us. That was a good.
That was a good one.
That was a good
bit.
filler. I like it.
that.
Good bit.
I like
good bit.
any opportunity I have to bring up Lancelot Link's secret chimp.
Yes. All right. Well, guys, I think we have hit time, so let's go ahead and end the show here. You have been listening to Nerd Overload. Thank you very much for tuning in. You can find us each and every day over at nerdoverload.com.
You can send us emails if you don't want to leave a voicemail. Tell us your picks for Gorilla's Island or any other show you might want to reboot, or maybe you have a news article you want us to talk about.
Yeah.
You can do that at staff@nerdoverload.com.
Just don't send us things about how you could better improve our SEO.
Yeah, we get enough of that already. Yes.
Yeah, if it's not the email, it's the Facebook page or the
But-
Facebook Messenger.
If you want to leave us a voicemail like our previous one we played, you can give us a call at 412-345-1413.
Yep, we'll play
Do
it
it.
on the show. I mean, we did this time.
Do it.
We're
Give
gonna do
us-
it.
Yeah, give us your fan cast.
Absolutely. You can find all of our back episodes on different podcast apps, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where all of our videos go as well when we live stream and when we do video things.
Yes.
Working on a special cut of the bean fiasco.
The chicken bean fiasco.
The chicken bean fiasco. Yeah, yeah.
One of the worst food stunts we've ever done.
Once we get off mic, I have a story about that.
Oh no.
But
He's remembering.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
just-
remembering.
And finally, I'd like to thank Parker for helping us find news for the show and David Pencil for our intro and outro. So again, thank you all for tuning in, and we will be back next week.
Next time we're light on news, we should fan cast video game movies.
I agree.
Pizza out.
Pizza out. We're still streaming, Josh.
I know. Well, this. Wait.
Okay. Well, we're probably going to wrap up here in a sec anyway. No, Jordan's coworker, someone brought the beans to their Easter dinner,
Oh no.
and they said they couldn't get past the gravy.
They didn't even get to the chicken?
I don't think they got to the chicken.
It's the other two are nothing compared to the chicken.
That chicken was the worst one.
Yeah.
It really, really was. All right. Well, Josh has left, so I guess it's up to the two of us to sign off. So, all right, we'll catch you all next week.